And welcome to another edition of Breaking Bet. We're live here on this Thursday evening, April 11th. We're moving through the month of April. The college season is about at that halfway point, maybe a little past, and we're starting to get into the blend of finding out which teams are for real, maybe ones that are on their way to making a run, like a Wake Forest. Rocking the shirt today in honor. And I got my guy Doug Ziefel back. It's been a minute since me and him have been able to get on the same page. But Doug, thanks for joining me, brother. How you been?
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, Johnny. It's great to be back, and everything's rolling good. Last week, even though we were without a show, I caught fire finally, so I'm hoping to carry it up into this weekend.
Yeah, you caught fire, and I got hosed. It was not a good week for me. I had a good Thursday night week, but just a few things did not really go my way. And you know what? I really needed a bounce back week. It was a really good week 2 weeks ago, and then I gave pretty much all of it back last week, and now we need to rebound. But coming into this week, what are your expectations? Are there certain teams that you're looking out for, whether it's one way or the other? Are there certain teams that you're looking to bet because you think they're going to be very profitable given the time of the year? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, the way we've seen a lot of teams, I feel like there's been a lot of volatility this year, even with the top teams and some of the top arms as well. You know, it's really been outside of some of the top arms like Holman and Smith. It's really been even hard to count on Friday night guys this year. And looking at teams like Florida, big question mark, still favored going into the opening game of this weekend. Teams like Georgia Tech need to get it going again. It'd be interesting to see how this weekend unfolds for a lot of these teams that either started off hot or had high expectations and have been up and down a lot.
I think it's hard because we, at least for the first few weeks, we're getting that home team trend, and sometimes you just don't want to buy into it because I don't want to say it's a silly trend. It makes sense because college is not like the MLB where a team can easily go on the road and get a win. It's a much different environment. Even football, they give three football line makers give the home team about 3 points in the NFL in today's NFL for home field advantage. Baseball is a little bit different, and I think the fact is, it's kind of been bugging us out a little bit to the point where you are almost getting scared off taking a much better team because they're on the road facing an average at best squad. But because they're home, you're like, ooh, maybe they steal one. Like, for instance, Arkansas, and we're going to get into this game shortly. Arkansas's at Alabama, and you got Hagen Smith. Like, you almost always got to bet Hagen Smith. But they're at Alabama, so it's like, oh, well, he's on the road again. Do you want to back him? And when he was on the road at Auburn, it took for him to throw an unbelievable game, and they only won 1-0. So that's been the thing that's kind of really bothering me. And the trend's still been pretty good with home teams for the series, but especially game one. But it's lately starting to get to the point where it's not foolproof, and you're trying to, guess, pick and choose which way you're going to go for it. So that's been a real problem, I would say, over the last few weeks. Yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say, Doug?
Oh, no, you're good. Is everything good on your end? Having a little bit of lag. Can you still see me? Just making sure.
Yep. We can see you.
All right.
Big smile on your face.
Good.
All right. So DZ,
awesome.
let's get into week 9 here. There are a lot of big favorites, and it's teams that we love to bet, especially on Friday nights, because they got the horses going. So how are you attacking these big favorites? You got Oregon State at minus 445. It should be 8 in May at home. ECU with the big dog, Trey Savage, at home against Charlotte. UNC at home against Notre Dame, I believe, with Folger Boaz. Wake Forest on the road at Pittsburgh. Let me confirm. I'm sorry. Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Wake Forest
Yep,
on the road at
Pittsburgh. You're
Boston
right.
College. No. Boston College.
Oh, we have Wake Forest,
Uh,
Boston College, Duke, Pittsburgh. There you go.
yeah, Wake on the road with Chase Burns. Duke on the road
Mm-hmm.
at Pitt with Santucci, and Arkansas on the road with Higgins Smith at Alabama. So, in your opinion, which is the best way to go about attacking this Friday night slate with all these big dogs going?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good spot to create your money line parlays here. This is, one of the rare sports where you can get away with three teams, even if the probability goes down in terms of parlays. But like you said, with all these aces going, you're going to look at teams that I'm going to target here in my parlays this weekend are going to be Wake Forest, Chase Burns, again here on Friday night against the Boston College lineup that really has been feeble in comparison. And Wake Forest offense has finally woken up. Nick Kurtz come back with a vengeance. The guy can literally carry them himself. You've seen just how ridiculous he can be and why he had that first round tag on him coming into the year before the injury as well. One note, I think for UNC, I think Folger Boaz went midweek, if I'm not mistaken, against South Carolina.
Did he?
Yeah, I bet on that game, and I didn't get eyeballs on it, but I think Folger Boaz went, so I'm not 100% sure on him going to tomorrow night.
No kidding. Seriously, he went?
Yeah. But then also, I do like Duke with Santucci on the mound. Again, Pittsburgh's pitching just has not been up to snuff. Pittsburgh dropped a midweek game. Their offense is up and down. We've seen them succeed in good hitting environments, but against Duke, who's a decent defensive team, and Santucci's been pretty much lights out. They're a strong parlay leg as well. Anybody you like, Johnny?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you are right. I guess Folger Boaz did go because now Jason DeCaro's moving up from the Saturday role to Friday. Chase Bragg has moved up from Sunday to Saturday, and they were TBD on Sunday. UNC is. So for me, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. And something to mention: parlays are typically not a good bet. No handicapper is going to sit there and tell you to go bet parlays. They're not a strong way to wager usually. College baseball is maybe an exception to the rule where parlaying 3, sometimes 4 teams can be a good bet. Sometimes. Like for instance, if you parlayed Wake Forest, let's build this out here. If you parlay Wake Forest, Duke, Wake Forest, Duke, where's Arkansas? Arkansas, and Wake, Arkansas, Duke. Sorry, I'm dying here. Give me a second. Let's say you parlay Wake, Arkansas, and Duke. You're getting plus 144. It's not bad, but think about that's pretty good considering ideally you're like, okay, well, I'm putting 3 teams in there. I want to be getting at least plus 250. But the thing to remember is look who you're backing on the mound. You're backing Chase Burns at a bad Boston College team. You're backing Jonathan Santucci at a bad Pittsburgh team. And you're betting Hagen Smith against a solid Alabama team. They're not bad, but they're solid. But you're backing 3 guys who are going to be first rounders this year, 2 of which might be top 5, top 7 with Smith and Burns. So the thing is to consider, obviously they're all on the road, which is a little intimidating, but sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and say, you got to back the better guy. I think it's a good look to sit there and say we should parlay these guys because there's really no other way to get involved. I don't care how good a pitcher is. I'll never tell you to lay minus 300 with Wake Forest with Burns or minus 270 with Hagen Smith. I would never do that. So I think that's where you can get an opportunity to create some value. Listen, you lay $100 to win 144 on 3 of the best pitchers in college baseball, Doug, right? I think that's a fair way to go.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, these are the 3 teams that stand out from these list of heavy favorites. And another thing too about the parlays, just from like a mathematical, EV standpoint, college baseball is a sport where we're seeing a ton of steam towards favorites in the morning. Like even these teams that are sitting here at minus 298 right now, very well, they may very well be well over 300 tomorrow. So from an expected value point, you getting your lines right now and putting them in your parlay only gives your parlay a higher percentage chance of coming in terms of your expected return.
It's a good point. I like how you said that because the fact is Wake Forest minus 298 right now. Tomorrow, the game's an earlier game, I believe. Wake Forest is playing at 3:00 tomorrow. So by first pitch tomorrow, that minus 298 might be like minus 330, minus 340. So you're losing value in that play. And it's hard to understand that to say like, okay, parlay is a good bet. In this case, it's a solid bet. It's not very often you're going to get that in sports, but for a case like this where the talent comparison between some of these pitchers you're backing is so large that it becomes worth it. I think our group, most people who have watched college baseball will say there are no pitchers that are even close to Chase Burns and Hagen Smith. Like it's Chase Burns, Hagen Smith, and then it's everybody else by a wide margin. I think that would be a fair assessment to say. Then you throw in a guy like Jonathan Santucci, who's been really good overall and who is a first rounder most likely this year. It's like, okay, Duke's pretty good. They're at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's not good. So it's something where I would think that it's worth mentioning. And, I like how you put that on there. Kyle Hardy coming in with the comment. Got to keep eyes on East Coast weather tomorrow, wind and rain. That is a very good point. We've just been getting killed with weather. That's the one thing I hate about the sport. The weather is so bad throughout the year. Like the weekends have been getting gutted, especially on the East Coast. The weather is abysmal. We're always getting rain or wind and just affecting the game. So it's a very good point. But at the end of the day, I feel like that really affects me more with totals. Like I'll be the first one to say I took a big swing and miss last week when I put Oklahoma State, Oklahoma under in that Saturday game with the big wins. That was a complete miss on me. But I feel like wind is more affecting the totals as opposed to the money lines, but the rain can affect both. All right, let's get into the first game here. Doug, we got Virginia at Louisville. Looks like I think Sebastian Gongora will be going for the Cardinals. Louisville coming off a clean sweep against NC State. You think the Cavs pull this one off on the road?
Yeah, this was a game I was looking at myself just before we came on, and I was wanting to bet Virginia, but I had some pause because honestly, Gongora's been very solid for Louisville of late. And when you look at these teams statistically from at the dish, they're fairly even given, Virginia's big offensive output against North Carolina. But overall, they've been pretty even in terms of WRC plus. And I don't know, we keep going back to these teams at home. Gongora's at home here. Virginia's, you're going to buy them high right now. I lean Virginia, but I don't know if I'll get there right now.
It's interesting. So I took Virginia at the short price, and this could be a prime trap spot. I took Virginia just because their offense is so good. The pitching, you know, the pitching is probably going to be a wash at the end of the day. Here's where I would go because I'm writing in Louisville takes game 2. Their Saturday guy, Evan Webster, he's just been a machine. He's been impossible to get around. It's kind of like last year, and I don't know what happened to him, but Carson Liggett last year was, for at least the first half of the season, it was repeatable. Every single Sunday was Carson Liggett Day for the first half of the year. This season, it's been Evan Webster. Like Evan Webster, outside of one bad start against Virginia Tech in St. Patrick's Day weekend, he's been really good. He's got a 2.61 ERA. So I think that's probably where I would look for Louisville is game 2. Gongora, I mean, he had a really good start against NC State last weekend, but before that, got lit up against Florida State, got lit up against Wake Forest. He did well against Virginia Tech. And then everything else before that was it was an easy schedule. He played Indiana State. I guess that's not that easy, but that's not an ACC team. St. Bonaventure, Youngstown State, Northwestern. Even Northwestern got him. He has been better at home, but I think ultimately it's really hard for me to not take this Virginia team. I would go UVA Friday, Louisville Saturday, and probably go back to UVA on Sunday. I think the short favorite thing is a little cause for concern just because it's like, oh, like Virginia, they're only minus 135. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that trap where Louisville's a short team, and that's been a really juicy spot so far this year.
Ooh, there we go. Lagging a bit, sorry.
No,
yeah, I definitely agree your points. Virginia's offense, obviously, light on fire. You might have talked me into them a little bit. I honestly I want to see if they move. You know, if we see steam in the morning and I'm able to still catch, you know, maybe 5-10 cents above this number, I'll be okay. But like I said, I just have a little bit of pause. You know, I feel like even if they do move, you might be buying Virginia high. But remains to be seen. I like your look for Saturday though as well. You make great points about Webster, and I think Louisville might even be more undervalued price wise if they drop Friday night as well.
Yeah, I'm curious because like ideally, I want to see if let's say UVA puts it on Louisville tomorrow. Let's say UVA wins like 8-3, 8-2, or 12-4, something like that. I want to see if Virginia opens at like minus 160 on Saturday, and then you're getting Evan Webster at home at plus 130. That to me that's the money spot. That's where I would be hoping for. And unfortunately, when we've been trying to handicap it like that, we've just not been getting those numbers as expected. But that's something like in the back of my mind that I'm actually playing for ultimately. And I'll say this: if Louisville wins, I'm not going to be surprised at the end of the day. Like this has got a little bit of a red flag for me, but I would definitely think that it's possible. I'm checking into this Georgia. I don't know what's going on. Coming into the top of the 6th, Georgia had an 11-1 lead, and it's 11-6, and Mizzou's got second and third, 1 out. I don't know what is going on with the Bulldogs bullpen, and it's not a good look.
That bullpen has been scary all year.
It's scary bad, dude. It's scary bad. Hopefully they hang on here because I was worried about Georgia run ruling them, and now it's not good. All right, next one is the team Louisville swept last week. NC State at Clemson. I don't have any starters here for either side. Sam Highfill for NC State. I don't know what happened to him. He didn't start last week. I think he got scratched because he was sick. I have to wait to see what the pitchers are going to be before I play this. But have you heard anything? Does the pitching matter to you in this Friday game? What's your look here?
I think the pitching could matter a ton. I mean, I just looked up NC State's rotation from last weekend, and it's none of the usual suspects from what I'm seeing, really. Yeah, like you said, Highfill got scratched, and they started Heath Andrews on Friday or Thursday last week, Dominic Fritton and Ryan Maharan. And, I mean, if they're going to throw those – either any of those three guys make it into this weekend's rotation. They had game scores below 30, Fritton 16. I mean, that's rough against this Clemson lineup, you know. Yet I'm with you, though. I can't make a call until we really see who's starting, but Clemson's offense at home is solid, but at minus 200 without knowing the pitching, I can't lay it right now.
Yeah, I think everything depends on the pitching for me. That's why I can't give a play here. Like if it's Sam Highfill for NC State and one of these regular slapdicks for Clemson, then maybe I will give NC State a look on the run line. But NC State's been really bad on the road. I think they're 2-8 this year, but it's two really good offenses. So if it is subpar pitching, I think it might be a look for the over. I could see each team scoring like 6 runs because, we have a couple potent offenses, and I'm just not really sold on, what we're going to be seeing from the pitching as, wow, Georgia, this I don't know what is going on. They cannot get out of this 6th inning. Like, it's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. All right, Doug, this is an interesting one. South Carolina at Florida. Gators getting the old home field favorite price. Brandon Neely on the mound against Eli Jones. Gators got to bounce back, right? Doug?
Oop, sorry, lagged out again. I don't know what's happening. We were fine earlier. There we go. Can you hear me? We good?
Yeah. Yeah, Gators got to bounce back, don't they?
Okay. That's what we've been saying for weeks now, but we have yet to see it. I feel like I don't want to touch the Gators with a 10-foot pole right now. It's just they can't put it together. It feels like all their midweek struggles are well documented. They get good pitching. The offense doesn't show up, aside from Caglione. They put up a bunch of runs, and they give up more. And South Carolina is a team that has the bats to slug with them. And with Eli Jones going Friday night, that's going to be their best shot in terms of an arm. But right now, this is going to be a game that I'm going to need to watch before I even think about betting on Florida right
now. I'll tell you why I don't mind Florida. They are kind of dead to me. I'm not parlaying them. I would bet them straight, if anything. But let me tell you something. Florida got swept at Mizzou last weekend, which is abysmal. I don't even know how you do that. And then they lose for the 3rd time in the midweek to Florida State. This is an opportunity where Florida, who's been very good at home this year, I don't think they've lost a series at home, needs to get back to business. Brandon Neely has been not great in the starting role thus far, but I think mainly the point of emphasis here is it's more of a fade on South Carolina. Like, South Carolina's pitching has been solid. Eli Jones has been pretty good this year, but their hitting has not been good at all. I'm not impressed with what I've seen from the Gamecocks. And they're 3-5 on the road. They went to Clemson in a 2-game series, ultimately lost. They lost 2 at Ole Miss. They ended up sweeping Vanderbilt, but that was at home. They lose a series at Alabama. They end up and they lost the series to A&M last week, but that was at home. So they've lost their series on the road. That's really where the advantage is coming for me. Like the offense that we knew from the Gamecocks last year has not existed this season. Ethan Petrie, he's been okay, but he hasn't been the guy we saw as a freshman. And Florida, even though Brandon Neely's likely to give up a few runs, their offense, I think, is going to wake up. So for me, I think Florida at minus 140 is a really good buy right now. South Carolina has got to prove it to me. And listen, I don't love this play, but I think getting Florida at a short price at home on a Friday night where they've been great and they need a win against a South Carolina team that has been bad, especially on the road. To me, it's a really good value.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to get there. If Florida steams, you might see me on South Carolina tomorrow. Like I said, offensively, South Carolina, statistically, they're slightly better. I mean, South Carolina 118 WRC plus. Yeah, they lack in ISO. They're about 40 points down from Florida. We know Florida has the pop, and especially in their home ballpark. But they're neck and neck offensively, and Eli Jones is definitely going to keep them in this. If Florida steams, I'm going to get in on the Gamecocks, but that just goes to show you
where I
how
would get
much
on the Gamecocks.
What?
You want to hear something very interesting? Everybody, open your ears. Everybody, open your ears right now. This is where I would get in if I were you. Pause for dramatic effect. I'm going to tell you something about the last few series that South Carolina has been on the road for Friday night. Or game one. Game one series for South Carolina on the road the last 3 times. At Clemson, at Ole Miss, at Alabama. Do you know what all 3 of those game ones have in common? The last 3 road game ones. Do you know what they all have in common?
Are they? You bringing up a spread here, a run line here?
They
one
run
losses.
Run exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The last 3 Friday night games on the road, they have lost by 1 run. So I would probably look at taking the Gamecocks plus 1.5, especially if we see Florida tomorrow at like minus 166. I would be looking at the run line for South Carolina. But ultimately, I think the Gators win this game. I know you're not sure about it. You know, this is not a lock by any stretch. I'm not saying this is a smash play. No, I think if I had to pick a side, I think Florida wins. And I like the fact that they're at home. If they lose this game, they're losers. I mean, they're already losers, but they're even bigger losers. So give me Florida. Let's middle this bitch. Let's go Florida money line with the South Carolina run line. That's going to hit. The Florida Gators are going to win this game tomorrow 6-5. Book it. I'm clipping this. If the Gators win by 6-5, I'm clipping this. But they're going to win by 1 run because that's just how it goes. All right. Let's get into something very interesting. This is not something I will normally do, but I try to be objective as much as I can. And even though I love Coastal Carolina, this is a spot to bet against them. They're a short, modest 140 price at Georgia Southern, which we rarely see Coastal at this short of a price on a weekend. And they're at a really good Georgia Southern team who's a home dog. Doug, does this not scream Georgia Southern backers?
It does. It scared me, and I had to look into it. And ultimately, I took the Chanticleers here. I'm taking the price. I think. Wow. I know it seems like a trap, but this is going to be one of the lowest prices we've seen for Coastal in a while. And in the end, Georgia Southern's offense they're subpar. I mean, they have a WRC plus of 90. They have no pop. I know they're at home, but I think Coastal's going to find a way to slug this one. They're going to get there eventually, even if the pitching is bad. I feel like I have a lot of faith in this lineup.
All right. Ideally, I want to buy it, right? I want to buy it. I want Coastal straight. I want Coastal in a parlay. Minus 140. Are you kidding me? Like Georgia Southern, they should beat them, right? Yeah, it's so tempting. It's like going to McDonald's and seeing they just put out a brand new sandwich and, I want it. But, you should be eating a salad instead. Coastal's last 2 series on the road, which were recent, at Appalachian State and at ULM, they lost both of the game ones. They've not been great on the road this year. They're 3-6. It's been significant how bad they've been playing on the road. And, aside from that, which doesn't always matter, look who's pitching for Coastal Carolina. They're back to using Riley Eichhoff on Friday nights after taking a brief hiatus. Somehow, I don't really know how Riley Eichhoff has been pitching as well as he has. He's got a 3.10 ERA, which is honestly surprising. But if you kind of do the breakdown, this is something that I found very particular. He's been really good in his last 2 starts against Old Dominion and ULM. Fine. But he was really bad pretty much in every start leading up to that. But then the guy who's pitching against him, Thomas Higgins for Georgia Southern, has been great. And that kid's been even better at home. So for my money, I think Georgia Southern is a really good upset play here. Maybe my one regret is playing them a little too soon. But if Coastal gets steamed, which they probably will, then I would also look at the home run line for Georgia Southern. I wouldn't surprise me to see the Shants blow them out or even win. But I think the Eagles are one of these prices here where you got to be careful because they probably have the pitching advantage and they're home against a team that doesn't play well on the road. So I think the Eagles are a solid play here for Friday night.
All right, we're going to go head-to-head here then. Yeah, I agree with all your points. It's very solid, but I don't know if I can back this Georgia Southern. If they're gonna if it comes down to needing to score runs here, if Eichhoff pitches well for a 3rd week in a row, maybe he's figured something out in the pen, like in a side session that's led to some of his success. If it's going to come down to we're needing runs on the scoreboard, I'm taking Coastal here.
Hey, you know what? I completely understand it. I have no objections about their ability to score, but we've seen how bad the Coastal pitching can be, that teams that have no business being involved just decide to start dominating at the plate because the pitching has been that bad. I'm a little surprised Riley Eichhoff's ERA is as low as it was because I thought it was like in the 5s, and I guess just because he's had 2 great starts, maybe it's lowered that much. But I think for my money, I think betting against Coastal here, believe it or not, is not a bad play. One thing that does bother me, though, really, you would think Coastal would be a much bigger favorite. It's like that Virginia treatment. You would think they should be much bigger favorites. Realistically, you would think Coastal should be like a minus 175 favorite on the road, but they're not. They're short, and that's very surprising. And I think, this is an opportunity potentially to see this team really just kind of lay an egg on a Friday night. That's just my opinion. Georgia Southern doesn't necessarily do that many things well. They're a big steals team, but we shall see. All right, let's get back into the SEC here. Vanderbilt Commodores at the Texas A&M Aggies. This is a very interesting series. The Aggies have been an absolute machine. They're throwing Ryan Prager. You got to refresh my memory who Vanderbilt's throwing. I know it's not Carter Holton. I don't know if it's Bryce Cunningham or
it's Bryce Cunningham.
It is.
It's Bryce Cunningham.
Okay. At A&M, Doug. I'll start this one off. I'm laying it with A&M. I'm laying it. I think A&M, Ryan Prager, he's been unbelievable. The Aggies have been a wagon, especially at home. Vanderbilt, they've been better than I thought they would be, to tell you the truth. I mean, honestly, they haven't really beaten anybody outside of LSU, and LSU's been going through a lot of struggles. A&M is clearly the second best team in the SEC behind Arkansas. I think Vanderbilt will get one. I think it'll be tomorrow, or not tomorrow. I think Carter Holton was finally moved up to the Saturday role, if I'm not mistaken. You have to correct me. But whichever day Carter Holton throws is when I would back them. And I'm pretty sure it's game 2. But give me Ryan Prager on a Friday night at home.
Yeah, I'm opposite of you. I grabbed Vandy here, and I might regret not waiting. But Bryce Cunningham is my guy. This guy's flat out. He's electric. You know, he's got the shot to really quiet down this Aggies lineup. And Vandy's offense, as I've said all year, they go in spurts. But last week against LSU, we saw them come up clutch, kind of get the key insurance, and their bullpen was able to wiggle out of a couple situations to lock down some wins in that series. In the end, I think Bryce Cunningham really gives Vandy a shot here. This is going to be fun to watch through the first, 5-6 innings, especially against Prager. It might be if this total comes out high, because I know the Aggies are at home. This might be an underlook. That's kind of how high I am on Bryce Cunningham.
Maybe. Here's the interesting part. Bryce Cunningham, his last 4 starts. Ready? 316 versus Auburn at home. 5 innings, 1 earned run. Next week at South Carolina, 5 innings, 5 earned runs. Next week at home against Missouri, 7 innings, shutout, 12 Ks. Next week, which was last week, at LSU, 4 1/3, 5 earned. What's the trend?
He's due. It's his turn. He up and down, up and down. We're back up, right?
The trend is he's been bad on the road. His last 2 starts, he's done really well against Auburn and Missouri, who, by the way, are 2 of the worst teams in the SEC. Those starts have been at home. He's been way worse on the road, and this is a road start against one of the best teams in the country. So for me, I'm not going Bryce Cunningham against Ryan Prager, against an A&M offense that's been hitting the cover off the ball. Vanderbilt, like I said, has been surprising to me. If Carter Holton was throwing, maybe. But if you even look at Vanderbilt, they have not been good on the road. They managed to beat LSU, who's been going through a lot of struggles. And really, they lost the Friday night start against Luke Holman. And it's just because the LSU pitching bullpen has been really bad. That's the reason why they won the series. If we're going there, they barely beat Mizzou. They swept Mizzou at home, but they barely did. They only outscored Mizzou. They only scored 10 runs against Mizzou in 3 games. They got swept at South Carolina. They haven't played anybody on the road really. And, for me, I think this is – I don't like laying these big numbers, especially against a capable team like Vanderbilt. But for me, minus 190 is – we got to go there. That's it. I know you don't agree with it, but Bryce Cunningham is not the guy that I'm backing to buck the trend here. The hope is that A&M blows them out tomorrow. And then have you confirmed is a Carter Holton game too?
I can't confirm, but I have what was it? I have off of last week's rotation.
Actually, I know.
Last week's rotation was Grayson Carter, Cunningham, Holton. So
hold on.
I don't know.
No, it is Carter Holton. No. It is Carter Holton.
Okay.
It's Carter Holton. It's for Carter Holton game 2. So the hope is Vanderbilt gets smacked tomorrow, and then they come out as a bigger underdog on Saturday with Holton going against Tanner Jones on the Saturday spot for A&M, who's probably the weak link. And then you get Holton at a nice plus money price, and Vanderbilt evens up the series. That's how I would handicap it. And then I would have Justin Lampkin finally due for a bounce back at home on Sunday against Vanderbilt and Grayson Carter. Okay. Now let's move on here. Big series. This last year, this was my series, bro. LSU, big dog at the Tennessee Volunteers. It is not Luke Holman tomorrow. And you know what? Originally that surprised me, but if you've been listening to me, I realize why it's not surprising. Tennessee has yet to name a starter. I don't know if it's AJ Causey or not, but he has not been officially named. Drew Beam is Saturday. AJ Russell, I'm not sure what happened to him, if he's still hurt. I know he got banged up against that Ole Miss series. Doug, it's Gage Jump for the Tigers. You biting on the Tigers to finally right the trend and win a series?
I don't think I can pick a side here. Like you said, Jump is all right. I have no issues with him. He's left-handed, I believe, right? Lefty, is he a lefty starter? No, yeah. And Vols have a lot of lefties. He matches up well. In the end, I think this is an over game, depending on the number. Obviously, we don't have totals right now, but this Vols lineup it's deep and it's dangerous. And we talked about the Tigers' bullpen struggles in their series last week against Vandy, and if Jump is unable to give them, even I wouldn't even say a quality start, maybe even 5 good innings, we're going to see the Vols bats do some damage here in the second half of this game. So right now I don't have a side, but I will definitely be looking for a total tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I think the over is a fair play if we're being honest. The over is a fair play depending on what it is, but here's why I'm going LSU. One reason. I put it in the group chat. I've been talking about this for weeks. Tennessee has struggled against lefty starters in the weekend rotation. They lost to Charlie Goldstein against Georgia 2 weeks ago. They lost to Liam Doyle of Ole Miss. I think they lost to one more. I can't remember. They've struggled against lefty pitching. And while Gage Jump isn't exactly one of the premier lefties, he's good enough. And I think LSU is in a spot here where it would not be surprising to see them win. I feel like I like this underdog getting a matchup advantage for a lefty against a Vols offense that, like I said, has struggled against them. So it's simple for me. I'm going LSU. And then the good news is, bro, if they manage to get this win, then they're going to get Luke Holman on Saturday against Drew Beam. And this is how annoying it is, right? This is how annoying it is. LSU right now is a plus 130 underdog with Gage Jump. Win or lose, it's going to be LSU like minus 160, 150 on Saturday with Luke Holman. That's how annoying it is. That's how much I can't stand how they manipulate these lines like that. So, I think LSU gets at least one of the next 2 games, but it wouldn't surprise me to see them take the first 2 and finally get a series win under their belt in the SEC this year.
I agree. Another thing, too, I just want to point out, you guys see this weird number next to Tennessee, these minus 166s that DraftKings like to put out? What this number means, since it's not clean and round or ends in a 5 and a 0, that means they are shading it towards Tennessee and they're expecting it to move up. So if you want to grab LSU, I may wait till tomorrow morning. These shaded numbers have been something that I've noticed too with DraftKings, since they are pretty much the market maker. They do shade their numbers. So if you're with Johnny here in LSU, you probably will get a better number tomorrow morning as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely, I like that. All right, let's move on here. Mississippi State, my Bulldogs at the Ole Miss Rebels. It's Cal Steven. What do you think here? Think State pulls it off? Battle of Mississippi?
Yeah, I mean, I've talking with you all season. You have talked me into Mississippi State. I've been buying in on them every week. Your boy Durangelo on Saturday. They've been a fun team to watch all 3 days, every weekend. I'm gonna adopt them along with you. Uh, Ole Miss was a team that I brought up earlier. They were earlier in the year as being a little underrated, especially in SEC play, but being slightly favored here against Mississippi State. I know they're at home, and this is baseball's version of the Egg Bowl here, but I like Mississippi State. Well-rounded. Cal Steven is solid. If you're going to give me them as a dog here, I'm going to take it.
Yeah, I love it. I'm taking Mississippi State games 1 and 2. I've been on Mississippi State since the preseason. I thought they were going to be a really good team. I thought they were going to have an outside chance to make the College World Series. Originally, they're not in my original 8 for the preseason, but I did have them making it far and being one of those teams that could sneak in there. I think they have a little bit of ways to go, but they've made a lot of progress, and they're definitely, for my money, they're in the top half of the SEC in terms of quality and talent. I love them. You're getting an underdog plus 110 price for Cal Steven, who has been unbelievable this year. Ole Miss is not good. I don't really know how else to say it. They're a bad team, and yeah, they're home, so obviously it means something. But for my money, I'm getting an underdog price on Mississippi State, and it wouldn't surprise me to see the action go in favor of State and see this line tighten up. So give me the Bulldogs here. Give me the Bulldogs tomorrow. Durangelo Senja's been phenomenal. Cal Steven's been phenomenal. The offense has been good enough. Yeah, the Bulldogs are heating up at the right time here, and this is where I would miss a series price. Like if they never listen, DraftKings never listen when I ask them for series prices. But this is one where it would be great to get State on a series price for the weekend, because I think they're going to win this one for sure. Doug, I haven't played anything in this game, but what do you think about Texas Tech at TCU? It's a big line for TCU.
I need to look at the pitching for the Red Raiders, because are they still throwing Robinson on Friday nights? Because if so, that's why the line makes sense. Hoyer.
I think it was a TBD. I looked. I couldn't find anything for Texas Tech.
Last weekend they threw Ryan Free in game 1 and then Robinson in game 2.
That's who it is. They are throwing Ryan Free. They're throwing Free against Peyton Tolley. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton Tolley has seemed to found it of late. Racking up punchies. He's great two-way player. Earlier in the year we had concerns about the Horned Frogs, but they seem to have found it. Although this price is a little steep, especially considering the Red Raiders bats. Yeah, I really don't have a feel for this game. I'd like to see kind of where the run line goes. Maybe if the Horned Frogs get steamed and we get a 2.5, I might be able to talk myself into a Red Raiders run line. But as of right now, I really don't have much of a feel for it. We haven't seen a lot from Ryan Free, and you're going to put him in on a Friday night against Tolley. There's a lot of different outcomes we could see here, honestly.
Yeah, it's hard. It's tempting because this is a heavyweight Big 12 fight. Teams that can score. For me, though, Peyton Tolley is not – he's been a lot better, but I can't get behind TCU, man. I mean, they've been a lot better at home, but they just got their asses beat at Cincinnati last weekend. And Texas Tech can't pitch, but they can hit. So I don't really know which way to go here. I think for me, it's probably a stay away. It's tempting because I want to get in here, but this is – to me, this has the makings of a big-time slugfest so one of the bullpens or one bullpen or something is just going to become a disaster and melt this down. So I actually don't have a lean here, but I was interested just to hear your thoughts. I think there's too much uncertainty, even though it's fun, it's tempting. You want to take one of these teams for this weekend. I don't know. I mean, I would side, at least Friday, I would side with Peyton Tolley. Ryan Free's not been good but at the same time, I don't think I'd lay minus 190 here with the Frogs. So, I'm probably staying off this game. All right, last highlighted game is UC Irvine, minus 150 at UC San Diego. Pitching hasn't been confirmed, but for Irvine, we'd probably think it's Nick Pinto, who's been great this year. You like Irvine at minus 150?
I'm looking into San Diego right now because honestly, I have not seen a lot of UC San Diego. I know UC Irvine has been a team.
Charlie Condon, another home run, second of the night, 23rd on the year, a condom bomb.
23 in 34 games. Guy looks like he's fucking an MLB The Road to the Show player. It's crazy.
I know, dude. Condon is unreal.
That was my third round. That was my third round pick in our fantasy draft, by the way.
I know. What a steal. What a steal Charlie Condon was, seriously.
But back to UC San Diego. Offensively, they're slightly above average, but have no pop, at least looking at the numbers. And as a staff, they've actually been very solid as a staff. 3.98 ERA, 3.32 Sierra. Their BABIP is actually relatively low too. Their pitching seems to be all right. Like I said, I haven't gotten a lot of eyeballs on them. I'm not, making any sort of assertions. I don't know who they're throwing, but you have given Pinto your support, and this Irvine offense is the superior lineup here. WRC plus 122. They're better by 11 points. The pricing makes sense. I'm willing to join you on the Anteaters if you're on them, because that seems to be it's UC Irvine or nothing for me.
I like the Anteaters. They've had a lot of favorable matchups. So for me, I think it's playable. Nick Pinto has been a guy I've been really to back lately. So let's add the Anteaters here. Minus 150, I think, is a fair price. And before we get out of here, any other games you're interested in, big dogs that you want to take a look on?
They're not necessarily the biggest dog, but one team that I have bet that we did not cover was K-State against Oklahoma. K-State's pitching is always a question mark, but I feel the same way about Oklahoma and Brennan Davis. Brennan Davis has an ERA of 7. Oklahoma's lineup has benefited from, down south winds and temperatures, and they've looked really well. But when you look at both these lineups on paper, K-State's slightly better than WRC plus wise, and we've seen them be explosive, put up big innings and crooked numbers. So if K-State gets into a slugfest here, I like them at 120 here as a dog.
Yeah, I might join you. I love K-State, but I think maybe Oklahoma, since I haven't already played K-State, I think it's another example where they might get bigger. Might be able to get them at maybe 130. So I probably would wait. K-State's pitching has always been a problem for me. I really like K-State. They're one of my preseason original final 8 teams to make the College World Series. I have a little ticket on them. It's just the pitching so bad. Who's going for them? Because they change it up every week.
Let me see. I'm just going to see. Last week it was Winthrop.
Yeah,
Josh decent.
Winthrop.
Yeah, Josh Winthrop. And I'd have to keep an eye on their Twitter to see if they've announced a rotation. But like I said, I think the pitching here.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, keep talking. I caught a crazy cramp.
Yes, but yeah, like I was saying, the way I'm looking at this game, it's irrespective. The pitching is a little bit irrelevant. I feel it's a wash. both staffs and starters, are inconsistent and really unreliable. So if we're looking at these teams from an offensive perspective, I'm going to take K-State as an underdog. That's really how I'm viewing this game.
I like it. I think it's worthy. I might add it to the slate tomorrow. I mean, for me, I don't really have anything else that I'm looking to play. It's just the odds are not very good for other games. I was thinking possibly Houston at home getting 154 against Texas. It appears Texas is not going with LeBaron Johnson this week. It's going to be Max Grubbs, and Houston hasn't. I don't think Houston's. Or they have announced their starter. I'm just not sure who it is, but I don't know. I think I'm probably going to stay away from that, to be honest with you.
One other game that I think is interesting to look at, we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, Arkansas, Alabama, Hagen Smith, Ben Hess. I know Ben Hess on paper, his 6.3 ERA, not pretty, but he's good. He's still very good. He's got good stuff. Arkansas's lineup's been fine, but like you said, we've talked about them kind of being quiet on the road. Friday night might look to an under as long as it's double digits. I don't want any 9.5s. I feel like Hagen Smith starts to become, they've almost begun to be priced like major league games. But Ben Hess has a shot to, has the stuff to keep the Razorbacks lineup at bay, especially if they're a little cold to start here on the road. Yeah, definitely looking at double digit and under there.
Yeah, for sure. But we appreciate everybody for joining us today. Don't forget to follow Doug on Twitter at Doug Ziefel and yours truly at _JohnnyVTV. We appreciate you joining us, and best of luck this weekend. Most likely no show tomorrow. Keep an eye on my Twitter for an update on that. And then we're going to try and get back in here on Saturday. So thank you so much, everybody. Let's get some winners, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Doug.